Hey, everybody. It is Ecommerce Redneck Podcast, and I'm super excited today because it's not just another company that I'm talking to or somebody I don't know. Today, I've got a very special guest, somebody I consider a good friend, and we worked together for years at Big Commerce. He's absolutely brilliant, really great guy. I'm super excited to have him on here. And without further ado, let's bring on Gilbert Barajas. Gilbert,
Woo.
what's up, brother?
That is quite an introduction, my friend.
Hey,
Quite an introduction.
and
Appreciate
and
it.
and I missed. Not only is he a great guy, but he's also a veteran and served our country. Thank you, obviously, for that service, man. And man, I'm super excited to have you on here. I figure, we could talk about kind of what you're doing now and what I'm doing now, and we're doing together. And then, also maybe get into a little bit of where we come from. How did we get
Yeah.
to where we are? And so with that, why don't you go ahead and just kind of introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about, the history that brought you to what you're doing and what you're doing now.
Yeah, man. I guess we'll start with the e-commerce cred because this is an e-commerce podcast. So
Yeah.
7 years at Big Commerce. I'm on the Big Commerce Customer Support Hall of Fame, Wall of Fame, one of the greatest customer support agents Big Commerce ever had. Moved on to being a tech project manager, and then in the data migration team, and then basically just been an engineer on the data migration team for the past like 6 years. Just moving literally tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of stores, loading them up onto Big Commerce. Each one of them becoming more and more bespoke as the years went on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the cool thing is, you got so much experience from all different kinds of platforms because migrations, my God, you got to move tons of different kinds of things.
I have moved data from platforms that some people have never even knew existed. Have you ever heard of Squirrel Commerce?
No, I
I
don't
mean,
even. I don't think I'll want to either.
I have moved a store from Squirrel Commerce. It's there's definitely platforms out there that have gone extinct. Big Commerce ate those platforms, and
Yeah.
we had a large part in acquiring those and eating those platforms.
Oh man, I'm telling you, it's funny because, Gilbert started, I think, kind of maybe the second wave of hires when we were still a startup, though, still in
Mm-hmm.
startup position. And excuse me. And, I was hired like employee number 40 or so in America.
Oh wow,
And,
yeah, it's pretty low number.
yeah, but, what was really unique about early on and when we were still in startup phase is, man, there were so many good people, so many good people. I mean, so many of my friends still today, and I started in 2012. I spent 7.5 years there. So I beat you by a half a year, bro. Or do you?
Wow, got me.
And I had 9 different positions while I was there. And we figured out the other day that you beat one of my records, which was I had beat a guy named Adam Bilsing's record of the most calls in a single day the first day I was on the phones. And then it sounds like you said you came through and took that right away from me.
Yeah, I think it was well over into the 60s.
Oh Lord.
In a day in an 8-hour shift. So
Oh
yeah,
man.
it's like 12 an hour, man.
Yeah. But what was really great back then, we had a thing we called Bucket Two when we hired people, and it was really about hiring not just very skilled people, people that were capable of the job, but also good people. And Bucket One was essentially everything that you brought to the table from a business perspective. And Bucket
Yeah,
Two was who you were as a person. And man, I mean to tell you, like we had so many great people. I
there
feel
were
like,
so many home runs in the bucket two department early on.
oh dude, and I really enjoyed my friends from there. I come from West Texas and, super conservative background and all that. And, I feel like I learned how to be a lot more tolerant and understand people more, and I feel like early on that was really a big thing, was getting to know people for who they were and, learn about them. And we were intertwined in one another's lives, all of us. And I feel like, there's a lot of times we didn't want to go home, not necessarily, we were having so much fun at work. So
I remember times, our early times being on the phones on the weekends, being Sunday. There was only 12 people in the entire company, like at work on that day. It's like a couple of tech leads and a couple of agents on the phone, like everyone's sitting there at the office in their pajamas.
yeah. And
Good times.
yeah, it was great times, man. But what was really great about that too is so many of the people early on stayed with it for a very long time and became, very important to the company. Tell us a little bit about, some of the things you did while you were there, as far as like, especially in the migrations role.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, if I can, name names.
Oh
I
no,
don't know all the
don't name
legalities of all of
names.
that.
Yeah. But
But there's definitely some of the biggest clients to ever come on to and be on BigCommerce would not have moved on to our platform without the team that we had in place. Having an internal data team of the caliber that we had to be able to handle their data, to be able to build, platform gap enhancements and tools and whatnot to, like I said, there's several that I can think of that, we had to quote unquote save the sale. So yeah, there's some of the biggest transfers, but then also, I've been involved in some of the smallest, $250. Here's a CSV. Can you go load my store up for me? So from that to loading, millions of objects, for some of the largest companies on the planet. So,
yeah.
and everything in between, from any type of e-commerce platform, from any type of CRM you can think of.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I've spent the past, about 7 years, completely just embroiled in e-commerce data,
Ugh.
reverse engineering databases and learning into various APIs of the different platforms. Yeah, it's a lot, it's a lot after enough time, you just kind of roll with it.
Yeah, but the experience, obviously was great for you. I know for me, it was, I grew there a lot in knowledge, and the whole time I had an agency. Part of the reason I left there at the end was that I wanted to kick off my agency, but at the same time, I also kind of felt like that might not work when they IPO'd, and I left right before they IPO'd, because
Oh man.
it was an independent company. There's things you can do as an independent company that you can't do as an IPO. So, but man, I learned a lot. I grew a lot and built a lot of like lifetime friendships. I was a part of a group early on called the Shoguns that they hired, and they literally built a ton of the departments out of the Shoguns. One of the guys that was in the Shoguns was the first account manager, Kevin Klausman, and stuff like that. They sent AJ Ujola to Sydney to help build out their sales team. It's just what they did is they hired about 12 of us that were just good in other industries, or like I was in agency, and then just used us to help establish a lot of those early on kind of things. I was on the acquisition team, which basically became the enterprise team. And it was hilarious early on. Pro Stores, which was eBay's old
Mm-hmm.
platform, we were so good at getting people to come to our system from theirs that the CEO basically called and asked us to quit picking on them. So I felt like, we had some absolute killers early on at BigCommerce, and that's really how it IPO'd and was that, people working hard, busting their butt and getting stuff done, man. And there was a lot to do at times, for sure, especially for migrations, man.
Yeah, I definitely remember, hearing some of the stories of the pro stores migrations and some of some of the people on my team, how long they've been there and how some of the stuff that they've been through. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's some wild times.
Well, and I wanted to talk a little bit about too, some of what both of us are doing now, because not only are you doing your own thing, but we've got you as one of the consultants for Cart Consultant, and my big thing is with the Cart Consultant concept is really to get people the kind of information that they need to make the right kinds of decisions, right? And then
Yeah.
the next step is, okay, you need front end, you need development. Well, that's obviously Cart Consultant. We've been doing it for a long time. You need integrations, whatever. But migrations, my goodness, I am no good at migrations, so I need you. And so definitely, tell me a little bit about, what you're doing and some, what you're doing at the moment with,
Well,
migrations.
with most of the clients that I've worked with previously, migration and the data migration portion of their replatforming was an afterthought. It was not something that was pre-planned out. It was something that even when they brought it to their agency, like the agency's like, yeah, we'll handle that. Like very reluctantly accepting that they wanted that they could do it, but then also as an afterthought. And sometimes they were like, yeah, we'll do it. And then they secretly came and hired us at BigCommerce on the DMS team to do it for them. And they would, the client would be none the wiser that the agency wasn't the one actually doing their data migration, that it was us doing it and they were paying us to do it. And then they were just turning around and charging the client. So, we have a lot of experience.
Actually happens a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There
you don't realize how much that happens until you experience it.
Right. And the whole idea, like with what I'm doing with Cart Consultant and working with you, it is really the whole concept of being able to piecemeal exactly what you need, and we have a full system, with guys like you that are absolute killers in what they do. And, you're right. Like my thing is, I don't want to hide any of it. Let's just let them deal with it straight with the people that they need to be dealing with, that can get it done for them, get them online and really get it going right. And I will tell you, audience, if you do a migration wrong, you will shoot your business in the proverbial foot so bad that you can
set yourself so far back.
Absolute failure can happen when you do a bad migration. And yeah, SEO, all sorts of things can get corrupted. And I've seen, in the agency side of things, people be like, nah, we don't need that. And then, it's just,
the problem that people don't realize is if you have, the last thing you want to see is a bad migration when you go to turn on some integration or some system and it's expecting a piece of data to be in a specific format, and you've loaded up all of your products with descriptions and whatnot like in the wrong format, and now you have to go back and delete everything that you can set yourself so far back by not knowing what you're doing, not planning these things out appropriately from the very beginning of what systems am I going to need and how do they expect their data, and there's just so many ups and downs, some pitfalls, things that if you haven't done it before, or if you haven't done it hundreds of thousands of times, you'll just never. It's the proverbial, you don't know what you don't know. Right. And until you've done it thousands of times, you don't know the things that you need to be looking out for, and the things you need to be planning for, and the things that are going to set you back the biggest, the things that happen the most.
I feel like e-com is full of trap doors like that, right? Where, people, the one thing I can say is you see on Facebook and Instagram and all these social channels, hey, do you want to make $1 million? Just sign up for my program and you'll blah, 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 blah. It's not that easy if you want to make good money. You might make money for a little bit, but if 10,000 people are doing the same thing you're doing, it's probably not going to work out. And, I feel like people have been sold a bag of goods, if you will, on how e-com actually works, and
Well,
you know,
you have those stores where just like load up a store here. We'll give you 10 products, and these products are designed to sell, and we'll hook you up with a drop shipper. And just like building a house, you got to build the foundation first, and you have to have a foundationally sound data structure if
right.
you're going to like expand your store, you're going to grow your store, if you're going to be able to have appropriate SEO, if all the other things are going to work on top of themselves without toppling over. Having a solid foundational base of your data structure is super important. Like,
Well, yeah, and I think it's important to note too that you're not just doing this, for big commerce stores. You can do this for pretty much any system. When you're moving
I have
data,
seen.
you really need to understand how these systems work basically. And then if you understand, all the specifics about migration, you can do it from any system to any other system
Yeah.
basically with
Yeah,
the
I
maximum results.
Yeah, I mean, specifically myself, being the scoping engineer for the data migrations team, like I've seen data structure from every single e-commerce platform. I've ripped it open and reverse engineered every e-commerce platform's database and API structure. I can tell you how one fits into the other pretty easily, and I can tell you which ones are going to give you pitfalls trying to get data in or out of. That's just like I said, it's one of the things that people don't ever even think about when it comes to migration is, how much data can you get out, and what is the quality of the data that you can get out of your current system? And do you need to do any type of massaging of the data in your current system so that it exports in a manner that's appropriate? Like things like this, people don't ever think about it until the very end where they're like, all right, time to do data migration. And they're like, all right, well, what do you have as far as data? And they're like, I don't know. I don't do.
Right.
Do I have a SQL? Do I have a SQL file? Do I have Do I have a bunch of flat files? Do I have CSV? Like, what exactly is it that I can get from a platform? And how complete is it? And how easy is it for it to read and break down? So a lot of those things, like I said, stuff that people don't know. Lots of pitfalls. Just something you need an expert for sure.
Well, just you talking about it, I need an ibuprofen. That's something I can say, in this day and age, obviously, there's some things with, the economy. There's kind of the shrink back from the big boom in 2021, 2020 in e-com. And so it's like, a lot of people, they have so many systems to pick from. Some of them are great, some of them
Yeah.
aren't, and
Yeah.
I'm very agnostic. I love big commerce, but I also love Shopify. And
Shopify's got some cool stuff that they can do that
yeah,
big
and
commerce can do.
yeah, and it's good for certain things, and that's usually how platforms are. Adobe might be good for you, or some other platform, but it usually, if you're really being honest and not just being the company man, and I have to say, for a long time I was the company man. I mean, they brought me in for 4 years to talk to every new hiring class because I had that spiel that I did about Mojo and all of that. And so, yeah, I
How
really
is your
think
mojo, by the way?
my Mojo's good. My Mojo's
My
great, baby.
mojo's so high, brother. Yeah,
But
we got to get RA on this podcast one of these days.
we definitely do. RA would be a great guest. And for y'all that don't know, Robert Alvarez recently retired, but he was the CFO for Big Commerce for like what, 10 years, 12 years, something like that.
But he's also the emotional and spiritual, like
Oh,
Mojo bucket
dude,
2 leader.
dude, he is
Your cup
absolutely.
will run us over after that episode. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
yeah, dude. Do you know where Mojo came from? Have I ever told you that story?
I'm sure I've heard it, but let's
So
for the sake of the episode.
yeah. So me and Robert Alvarez were sitting in his office. I literally started, and his office was right next to me. Like, poor guy had to listen to me all day in sales calls. And I went in there one day for a one-on-one, and we're sitting there, and he's talking to me about, my past and where I come from. Where I'm from Odessa, Texas. Well, Odessa, Texas has a famous football team called the Permian Panthers. And the Permian Panthers are, their kind of battle cry is mojo. Well, back in the 80s and 90s, as you know from the movie Friday Night Lights, which is about that school, like we were dominant as it gets in Texas football, which is, it's pretty
That's the
big
height of
thing
football.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how some of these high school teams will come out and they'll do I think it's called the haka or something like that. It's
Yeah.
the, yeah. Well, we kind of had our own intimidation thing. And as people came out, as our team came out on the field, we would chant mojo, mojo, mojo. And it would get so loud, dude. And here's the thing. It's like we kind of beat them in their own minds before we ever played. And I didn't play, by the way. I was too skinny. But we had them beat mentally. And what I kind of saw in that was kind of this, they taught us, we had a responsibility to bring excellence to everything we did. And the way that I saw it is it was basically preparation, teamwork, and teamwork in action, right? So it wasn't just team spirit, but it was essentially a whole thing of culture and being bought in and working hard and preparing for what was coming. And what was really great is, I say this to him, and he's like, we need to use that basically. And after that, it became a thing. And so I would go into every new hire group and I would walk in there and I would say what I just said to you. And then I'd tell them, I'd say, guys, here's the thing. You hear a lot of people say, you shouldn't drink the Kool-Aid, I'm here to tell you the Kool-Aid's good, so drink up, and then I'd start out low and I go, mojo, 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 and they'd all be screaming, dude. It was fun, man. So I did that for about 4 years, and I like to think that I was somewhat of a part of what RA was doing culturally at that time. But man, what a great guy, Robert Alvarez, absolutely a
absolute legend.
Legend, and I've never met somebody as high up in a great company, in a big company, that had so much heart. Absolute, just incredible heart. Still friends with him to this day, and he's in the Shoguns too. Even though he wasn't hired with us, he hired us. We considered him the leader of the Shoguns basically, and we still have dinner every once in a while with all the Shoguns from 10, 11, 12 years ago. So man, you're right, man. And I think that's important, to with whatever you do, to do it with excellence, and enthusiasm and heart, and that's really honestly like why we were able to be successful in IPOing and stuff, was really because, to me, is we had good bucket one, bucket two, and so
that's what I'm trying to bring to my new company. I'm trying to bring a little bit of that spirit of I care about what I'm doing. I care about these people's stores.
Absolutely.
I realize these people's stores this is people's livelihood. This is dinner on the table. So if you mess someone's store up, that costs money. That's not what we're about. You gotta.
Well, I would always tell people, especially early on, make sure you're dealing with people that are touching your store that give a crap. Because there are so many things out there that you can get into that are a landmine for your business, and so that's exactly what we're doing with Cart Consultant and partnering with your company and to make sure that those migrations get done perfectly, not not to the best of your ability. The one thing I know is that if I send somebody to you to get something done, by God, it's going to be done as well as it can be. Right.
We're gonna find a way. Like, we've literally invented entire new methods, built entire tools, for individual clients, just to make sure, like when I say new methods, I mean like thousands of lines of code for an individual client to write a bespoke tool for them to read their data and manipulate their data and load it into a BigCommerce store. And now, we're going to be able to do that to any platform. So you give us data, we're going to be able to do what we need to do to manipulate it and pop it into any e-commerce platform you want.
Let's go, dude. Let's go. That's and that's exciting to me, like I said, I have a lot of respect for you, brother, and admire you, as well as a lot of the other people that we worked with. But when I heard you were out, doing this, I was like, hey, we got to work together, man.
Yeah. When I found out you had a consultant network, and I was kind of branching out to share some of this knowledge with the rest of the e-commerce world, absolutely. I was like, oh man, this is, you run across people, multiple times in life for a reason. You don't ever think about, you don't interact with everyone in the world all the time, but when you walking through the hallways of places and you run across people randomly, and that happens over and over again, sometimes you got to see the signs. And like, I know over the years, I've ran across you enough times, across enough aisles, enough hallways, and here and there, that like, yes, this is a sign we definitely got to do some work together.
Well, and I'll tell you, the caliber of people that we had there that lasted for as long as you and I did, you didn't stay there by accident. I'll put it that way.
No. They don't just keep random, poor performers for, around for decades.
No. And it, it was a lot of fun. And I look forward to having a lot of fun with this project with you. But hey, before we get off, why don't you, I'm going to give you a second here. Why don't you kind of plug what you're doing and, basically say anything you want to say, other than don't make fun of me, please. No, I'm joking.
No, we've had enough of that. No. So yeah, my name is Gilbert Barajas. SBI is the name of my company. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. And I'll try to give Jeremy a link to add to this podcast. So
absolutely. Guys, Gilbert is an absolute killer when it comes to migrations. If you have a migration need, you are in luck. Reach out to him directly. You can reach out to Cart Consultant. We'll get you in touch either way. But man, Gilbert, thank you so much, brother. I really enjoyed this and just, getting on the podcast and hanging out with a friend, man.
Absolutely, brother. Let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon. Thank you for watching the Ecommerce Redneck Show. We're so excited to bring this to you, hopefully giving you lots of good information about e-commerce as it relates to you. If you're interested in working with me, simply go to cartconsultant.com and schedule a preliminary call for us to evaluate your needs and see how we can help you. I look forward to doing many more episodes and hopefully being a staple in your LinkedIn and YouTube feed. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
Sherman County cutie with a little bit of down home. Likes her lime with a splash of SoCo, if you know what I'm talking about. Head on back to Comanche, okay. Red River soil has been calling my name. Oh, come on home. A little bit